1 o'clock. It's time to start. Let me take this segue that Joyce introduced. Joyce, I put my perpetrator in jail at the age of 20. I had been 8 as a neighbor. So I think that for many women, that child sexual abuse is a topic, and these are traumatic conversations to have for people, and it's very shocking for people. Mm-hmm. So I just want to reassure people that all topics are okay. All topics are okay to talk about with the press. And I know that myself, having been a survivor, just like Oprah, that sometimes it's important to push our press to talk about uncomfortable things. And so we will definitely talk about that. But let's go ahead, and I love that you guys were getting related and getting to know each other right before the call. That is, you're always welcome to do that and to form camaraderie and community. So another thing that I really want to create in this week's call is just that. Last week, Marjorie and I got to talk, and I got to coach her in front of everybody. So this week, what I would like to do is, because we don't really, the other thing that you should know about me, just a few quick bits, is I'm the Chief Creative Officer of Wasabi Publicity, the co-founder of pitchrate.com, and Hannah will put up some links in the chat room. And I invite everybody else who's participating to also put whatever they want to publicize in the chat, right? So this is a tight little audience, and we can for sure share with each other. The other thing that I want to say is that we're in the middle of the 21-day PR Action Guide Challenge that you can download for free at pitchrate.com. Drew Gerber, my business partner, and I decided, what can we do during the pandemic? And one of the things that we could do is just give it away. Give away PR advice, especially as soon as the pandemic, we're all like going back to work, and you're like, great, now we're going to have all these back to work angles to talk about with the press, and now we have the protests. So these are to boot in my personal community. Our county is trying to rezone an area for an asphalt plant in a span of 2.5 weeks. So these are challenging times and troubling times, and I want to coach you so that PR is your voice on loudspeaker. Okay. I wonder if when we break into, we're going to do breakout sessions. And I think, Hannah, we're going to also be practicing the technology because these calls are new. So give Hannah some grace, right? So Hannah, do you want to introduce yourself? She's going to be practicing the breakouts today.
Hannah was really responsive when I sent her a note. So thank you, Hannah.
Amazing. Go ahead, Hannah, introduce yourself.
So, hi, I'm Hannah. I've been with Wasabi for about 10.5 years. And today we have 11 people. Well, I guess that's including Michelle and I. So today we have 9 participants. I don't know if you want to break out with 9 participants and how you want to do that, Michelle, but I am here and ready to practice breakout rooms.
Okay, well, we're going to do 3 minutes, 3 minutes for 3, right? So then let's just keep it an easy 9, right? So 9 minutes. And so she's going to, how we do this, it's really cool. But you got to immediately start, okay? Because I've done this in some other groups, and then you got like a long talker like me, and then your time's out, okay? So my recommendation is we have somebody have a timer, like I use a visual timer, but someone else get your phones ready or your timers, and then as soon as you start, time, and just everybody do like 3 minutes, right? And then what you can give them is like maybe an extra minute just while we practice this. And what I'd like to do is get in the habit of doing this first so that you really get to brainstorm with your colleagues here, okay? I'm not the only one with creative ideas, okay? And in fact, sometimes when we're listening, it's the best time to find your angle, okay? I don't know what's going to work in your community. I only have a guess. But the people present might actually have another idea. So really use this time so we'll start. And so the first breakout session will be you talking about practice your pitches, okay? Practice what you're going to be saying. In this week, it's all about the pitches, okay? It's all about what's going to grab that press attention. And then we'll come back. I'll do like the little lecture part that Hannah promised in your registration. Michelle's going to talk about these 4 questions. Okay. That's what we'll cover that. And then we'll break out again into, so that you can further refine that pitch. There'll be different people. And then we'll come back together. And so we'll also ask for people who just had like huge epiphanies and ahas, because this is really the huddle where you get free help from your friends. That's really the purpose of this. Not only PR coaching from me, but also free help from your community here. Okay. Awesome. So I didn't turn off my phones. My bad. So questions about the process? And then how many we have now? Do we just have a few more people, Hannah?
So we have 10, excluding you and I. And also, you're still a host, so I cannot do the breakout room thing.
Oh, okay.
Because you can, but if you make me the host.
Okay, let me just see if I can't do it. Hold on just a second. We
Yeah.
got 12 people. Hold on. So we got assigned 12 participants into 6 rooms, is what it's asking me, automatically. And then I know there's a way to do time, but it's not asking me for the time. So I'm just gonna, we're just gonna play. If it's a failure when we come back, we'll clean it up. Okay, let's just see what happens. Oh, look at you. I get like a little roster of who's with who. Okay, open all rooms. Here we go. Okay. Broadcast message to all. Okay, do we go? There you go. Okay. So right now you all should be actually practicing. So Lori, Joyce, okay, there you go. We should be in rooms. Okay. People in rooms.
Good.
Hi, Catherine. We are just breaking out into session, so I'm gonna put you into, well, all the rooms are just hang out, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, Lori.
Are we
Hi.
part of the maiden group though?
Oh,
Maybe that's-
Michelle. So did we just switch into a different breakout room, Michelle?
No, you did not. I'm trying to get Hannah back to you.
Oh,
She disappeared.
she
Yeah,
disappeared. Yeah.
Yeah, all breakout rooms are gonna close in 45 seconds anyway, so we'll debrief in just a second.
Okay. There she is.
Oh, yay.
Somebody
Michelle,
else needs to take a turn, so.
Michelle, you
I gotta
said you were
go
going to
to
put me
another
back,
computer.
and then I was by myself again, so I left the room.
Yeah, I think I'm
I don't know how that
gonna,
works. Yeah,
so we got 20 seconds and everybody will be back.
right.
We didn't get a full 9 minutes, I don't think.
No, we
Oh,
got 5.
you should have had 2 to 3 minutes each to speak and share. So do you all, so hold on just a second, not everybody's back.
Is this homework we should have done?
Hi, everybody. No, there's no, hold on just a second. Let me just close that out. Okay, so raise your hand if you didn't actually get a chance to speak. Okay, so Adrian and Nita and Linda. So give us your best 45-second pitch, Nita. Let's just hear it now.
Everybody?
She needs volume.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's muted.
Take the
I can't hear
unmute
you.
button, except there you
Okay,
go.
sorry. Now with COVID-19, people are struggling to stay connected to nature. With sheltering in place, we are all feeling disconnected. Our experience with Beauty and the Beast, California Wildflowers, and climate change in creating a traveling exhibit and a companion coffee table book offers people a way to connect with nature and fall back in love with it and find hope and action. So we're using art to inspire hope and action through conservation.
Thank you. Okay, Linda, let me just make sure. So Hannah, can you just unmute Linda if necessary? I've now made you the host.
I am married to an author, and I am doing my best to try to help him with the business end of it. He's written 3 books. One's a memoir and 2 are novels, and the novels have to do with Hollywood and time travel. He's a former actor. And we haven't done much in the way of PR or advertising on these things, so I'm trying to learn as much as I can to help him get these things moving, and also the new ones that he's writing. We need to get some action happening on them.
Good. Okay, novels, good. And then John Cowan wants to share. He was cut off in the middle when we came back from break.
Okay. The world has become a far less happy place in the last 3 months. We talk about it more in related terms, stressed, anxious, even fearful. However, this happiness deficit has us rushing out into potentially contagious situations now that restrictions are being lifted to seek its remedy. We forget a most important truth that the happy trainer and habitation can teach us, that the real source of happiness is within ourselves, originating in the brain, mind, and spirit. With training, we can access it when we intend to and keep it with us.
Perfect. Okay. And then who else did I call on that didn't get a chance in the breakout sessions to practice their pitches? Is that Adrian? Did you get to Adrian?
No, I could do it just very, very quickly. The purpose of my pitch would be to have a guest spot or a television or a podcast. And so I would simply say, the talents and the brains of 78 million Americans are about to go to waste as the baby boomer ages into age 70 and becomes obsolete in our society. This is a GNP problem, this is a health problem, and this is a societal problem. If you want to discuss any of the issues that deal with successful aging and contributory aging, please contact me. So, of course, I've got books, I've got many, many things, but specifically, it's the topic that I want to promote.
Good. Okay. Anybody else did not get an opportunity to share in the breakout sessions? Let's go ahead and start to, so how did that feel? I hope that it felt, and that's a rhetorical question, I hope it felt like your heart racing just a bit, and that, you know, because when we pitch ourselves, it's our voice on loudspeaker. When we pitch to the press, they're the ones who amplify that message, okay? So this is the kind of thing that we want to talk about. We're doing the 21-day PR Action Guide Challenge. If you've not downloaded your workbook, you can do it pitch rate. I started it on the 1st, and so we're on day 12. So about halfway through. So the first part of the book is really about your messaging, and so now it's really about your refining that pitch and getting it out into the world. Before I interact with my impressions of the pitches that I've heard, I want to talk a little bit about what's happening for me right now. So fortunately for you, unfortunately for me, my county, I live in a rural area in the Great Smoky Mountains, and there is an asphalt plant trying to rezone the property and move in across the street in the middle of the pandemic, in the middle of the protests. It's a nightmare. So as you know, like when I first heard about it through the grapevine from a neighbor, I was like, oh my God. And then my second opinion was, what can I do? And that's usually what happens when we get in touch with a problem, a societal problem that we want to address. And then that's the reason that really we need news coverage, right? So let's say, for example, there's a few people on that have novels. So one way to get press coverage for your novel is to actually pierce in on a societal issue that you address. And then the second thing is, ask yourself in the pitch that you just did in the breakout session, did you establish credibility? Just ask yourself that. Did you mention a degree? Did you mention a local, like your local, like for me with the asphalt plant, I live here. I live across the street. So of course the press is going to want to talk to me, right? We started to put that on loudspeaker, and y'all, this was Wednesday's paper, front page. So, and I just got off the phone with the Associated Press. So the first question is where's the targeted, like the really targeted community? In this case, it's a geographic example of I need everybody in where I live in East Flat Rock. Hey, did you know this was happening? The county's not letting anybody except for those neighbors within 400 feet know. Then we go to regional, and then regional goes to national. It can happen that way. Local, regional, national. So the Associated Press is picking it up, they told me this morning. So then we go, then that starts to get the legs into national. But how does that happen? It only happens if it has interest for everybody in the state. And so the angle that I put in this morning for the associate, because they don't care about an asphalt plant in a rural community. Why would you in San Francisco Bay Area care about this? You wouldn't, right? Because you don't have to breathe in the fumes of this.
Is there a zoning issue there?
So I'm getting to that, Mark, right?
Okay.
So then
It's the lawyer in me, Michelle.
I know, I appreciate it. And you'll be happy to know, Mark, that we have one of the best zoning lawyers in the county, which was important because the first lawyer that was referred to us had represented Sustainable Madison, a county on the opposite side of Asheville, North Carolina, on the opposite side. So we are unraveling a movie here. You want to talk about Aaron Brock?
I was going to say it would make a good novel.
It will. I'm taking notes. That's after the fact. I'm in the middle of
Send me
it.
your notes.
So what we had to tie in for the Associated Press, though, was why it mattered to the rest of you. So we said, in a pandemic, with the protests in a very challenging news cycle, what's happening in the local government scene that's not being looked at? What is trying to be swept under the carpet that marginalized our elderly, our Hispanic-speaking population, especially in this rural community? How is the pandemic and the normal processes of a zoning law being adhered to or not adhered to? That is a regional conversation, because that is what can happen at the state level. So right now, what's been trumping the news cycle, pun intended, for many years, whether you're conservative, liberal, wherever you are on the political spectrum, and I love it all because it makes for diverse conversation, you'll hear at the state level or the federal level, that's a local issue. That's a local issue. That means they're not going to deal with that. But that's also what the press has to deal with, right? So the press has to ask themselves, is this a hyper-local issue? Is this a regional issue? Is this a national issue? Or is it an international issue or story? And that's the kind of thing that they ask themselves when they're listening to your pitch. So when we talk about pitching yourself in 45 seconds or less, here's your formula. You ready? Credibility. So everybody write this down. This is why you're investing this hour with me, okay? This is the secrets that I give our clients when they pay for media training. Cred. I'm going to put it in the chat. They don't care about you unless you establish your credibility. And then guess what? When you're in an interview, nobody cares about you unless you establish your credibility. Hi, I'm Michelle. I've been doing PR for 30 years. I've seen it transition from typewriters to Twitter. You're somewhat interested because you're an audience interested in PR. Okay, fine. I have a master's degree in human development. So I know about lifestyle topics. I've represented authors. I've represented organizations, nonprofits, corporations, both at a state and regional level as well as an international level. Okay, now you're listening, but now what? So the next thing is what's in it for me. And that, what I mean by that is the reader, the listener, the viewer. They want to know what tips, tools, techniques, statistics do you have that makes a difference for them? And I want you to notice this in the next week on the news. Up next, we're going to have Martha, who's going to tell us 3 ways to redecorate your kitchen during the pandemic so that your spices are easier to find, or whatever. Like Lori likes that.
I did that.
Yeah, okay, see, there you go. That's all. So what tips can you give away? A checklist, thing. Linda's, Coolio dog jacket, right? That cools the dog in the sunshine. They don't really care about, they could care less about a new jacket, right? Unless they're doing a roundup of new products for dogs. But most of them are going to really love, like, how to keep your dog safe in the summertime. Top 5 tips. And then one of those is going to be about the dogs, the cooling method, right? But it has to be less like a soft integration. Then the last thing is your call to action, right? What do you need them to do? In this case, right, we all wanted them to go to friendsofeastflatrock.org, join the Facebook group and take action so that they're communicating with their county commissioners. That's it. That was the call to action. So now we're going to break up again into groups. How many people do we have now, Hannah? So we can do, bear with us as we practice, okay? We're probably not, it's going to be bumpy like it was last time.
So we have 14, including you and I. I don't know if you can exclude. Well, actually, no, it's me now, isn't it? Because I'm host.
It is you.
Oh,
So
no.
I practiced last time. Now you practice, and then
Oh,
we'll
boy.
see.
All right.
So I think that I'm going to be thrown in a room, but you're going to see this little, it's really cool, you guys, if you haven't done Zoom breakouts. So this is fun for you all when you start to monetize whatever tips you have into teaching online seminars, right? That's how you make money online. And then you sell your book while you're doing that, right? Or you're getting raise money for your organization or sell services for your corporation and whatever you're doing. Hannah, try your hand at it. I think if we have 14 minus the 2 of us, so that's still a nice even 3 numbers. So we do groups of 3 by 4. Or maybe we do 6 groups so that each is just 2.
Yeah, that's what I've got now, 2 per room.
And that way people can really just, then you only have to manage switching between you. And you'll see in the upper right-hand corner where I'm reminding you, switch, switch. But Hannah, that's going to be you now. So midway.
How many minutes?
I think a good 6 minutes or so. So 3 minutes each. We want to keep practicing talking in less than 3 minutes because every TV interview is 4 minutes, y'all. And sometimes they're 1minute, 30 seconds. You don't realize it because the person is media trained and they're on their sound bites. But there's not a whole lot of time to make your point when you're dealing with press. So let's practice 3 minutes or less. And then let's go. Let's see what happens. And you're talking about cred, what's in it for me, mostly the call to action. Here we go. All right, I got to join my room. Smooth. Here we go. Here, people coming back. How you feeling, Hannah?
How did you set the time for the breakout room?
It was automatically done. I think I did that when I set breakout rooms before.
5 minutes?
I think I did.
Okay.
6 minutes. It's
Because I
probably
couldn't
6.
change that. Okay.
And we'll have to do that, I think, in the settings before the call.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but yeah, okay.
Let's go inside.
It works. Whatever is automated it to now is working. We had plenty of time, didn't you, Linda? I mean, well, I guess.
Feel like we,
Let's ask everybody else.
yeah,
Richard McDonald. Hi.
he's muted.
Hello.
Hi, Richard.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, raise your hand if you did not have enough time. Okay, Marjorie. Okay,
Oh,
and
no,
was it because you were a long talker?
No. It was
Okay.
only because, no, we had enough time, but for giving feedback, there was no time to give feedback on the.
Oh, that's fine. I think
We had time.
I think that the exercise really is for you to get it out.
Yeah.
Because a
Okay.
lot of us are soloists, you know, like I talked to some of my friends who are soloists and they just don't have anybody to practice on. And the inception of this Friday meeting was to give you do-it-yourselfers an opportunity to practice, right? If you're going to hire a publicist like me, that's what I do for you. Or do-it-yourselfers with pitch rate, and then those reading this book, you need practice.
Yes.
And I'm going to put Linda on the hot seat. Linda was in the hot seat because she got into a room with me. Is that okay, Linda?
Yeah, which one are we gonna go with?
Well,
we
first
did a
let me
few.
say, Uncle Tom, may he rest his soul. He was my
yeah.
my uncle, my beekeeping uncle. You know, very blue collar guy, right? And he was like, this was way before I even thought about being a publicist. He says, you know what? If you drive 20 miles from your house and declare that you're an expert, you an expert. There's some truth to that. As a publicist, I'm gonna tell you, I work with a lot of people and they're like, I'm not really an expert. Aren't you? So Linda said that. She's like, I'm not really an expert in dogs. I'm like, didn't you just do a dog shirt? You patented a dog shirt? That makes you an expert. So Linda,
An expert is a drip under pressure or somebody 20 miles from home.
perfect. I love it. Yes, yes. So Linda led with her dog shirt, the Coolvio. They don't care. They're gonna put you right into the advertising department every time. Oh, thank you so much. I'm gonna connect you with Jenny. She's gonna get you ad rates. Every time, every time, every time. If you want to stay with editorial, then we lead with where Linda and I got to. Linda just then she said, you know, here's the things you can do when your dog is overheating. Put the paws into the water. You do this, you do that. And then her credentialing point, you know, said Linda Coad, the developer of a patented product, da, 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 da. You see how it goes? And the biggest thing that I see is people lead with their book, their product, their nonprofit, whatever they're doing. Nobody cares. I'm sorry. Nobody cares about the baby that you've been birthing for 10 years. Nobody cares. Only people care about is themselves. It's a hard truth in PR. And the only thing that the press cares about is what sells their paper, what keeps people from turning the channel, what keeps people listening through their whole hour-long podcast. Capiche, everybody? So if you're like, I called that editor and they didn't call me back. Well, you didn't persuade them with something they could use. So let's talk about the different press materials, shall we? Who can tell me the difference between a press release and a pitch? And Mark, you're not allowed to say, because Mark's worked with me before and he'll know the answer to that. There you go. Nita?
I would say that a press release is more of an announcement of something, and a pitch is more about the idea of the story that the media could cover.
Perfect. Let's think it in terms of invitations. Do you know how you have a party invitation? And you know how you get an Evite and you're like, come to my party and everybody, and here, cut and paste this, and then tell all your friends, it's a block party, tell everybody. It's a cut and paste. That's an actual press release. It tells the press, here, cut and paste this and tell your whole world about it. So if you have a product that's new, that is newsworthy, that it's new. And there is going to be a certain level of people who look at new products that cover that. And so that's worthy of a press release. And so just write a press release and send it out. Pitches, though. These are, hi, Mark Bello. We met at one time at a party, and you would, if you could grace me with your presence at our next Chamber of Commerce meeting, I'd really, really appreciate it, because you're a VIP in the community, and I so value the work that you do as a lawyer and the novels that you've written on all these hard topics. Maybe you could speak to all of our people. And then all of a sudden, Mark stands up and goes, this person thinks I'm a VIP. That's a pitch. So you want to start with.
It's never happened to me, Michelle.
Oh, honey, I'm sorry. After we get off the phone, I will send you a little card like that so that you can post it and know that you're loved.
Thank you, to make me feel good about myself.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good. So, but that's all you need to do, these journalists. You know, when I had WLOS last week, I have like, I can't believe I have so much rich information to share with you in these 21 days. I was like, well, I guess that's a bright side of this stupid asphalt plant. So I'm sitting there with WLOS in my backyard. I got my beekeeper suit on. We're talking about the bees dying from the asphalt plant fumes, right? Because nobody cares about me, you know. They just care about these bees in my backyard that I'm trying to keep to pollinate their fruits and vegetables in the gardens nearby. And this woman, you know, there's 3 in the crew. So there was the camera guy and then the main guy that's, you know, that's the face front in the segment. And then his, like, the coordinating person that was helping him out. And she's just sitting there with her mask on. And I just looked at her and I said, thank you. And she goes, for what? Thank you for being a journalist. Thank you for putting my voice on loudspeaker so that my neighbors could hear this. You have been, in the past week, your colleagues have been arrested, shut down, and for years now been accused of generating fake news. And I just want you to know that I know who you are for me. And you are me on loudspeaker. And I appreciate what you do day in and day out. She started to cry. So like Mark, they just don't even hear a thank you. So if you read an article, do you know in today's marketplace, they only get paid if you share it? That's true. Ask one of those top freelancers. Our world has changed, right? And most of the furloughed employees, you know, I have a penchant for hyperbole. Okay, a lot of press have been furloughed. For the first time ever, was it last week? It was last Thursday. I have a client out, and we represent Humane Society Silicon Valley. By the way, where's my Sausalito people? Yeah. So Humane Society Silicon Valley, you know, they need press because they're affected by the pandemic and all those doggies and kitties, and CBS was going to interview them. And so it was a weird thing that happened, and I keep forgetting to call that main guy back. He's probably like thinks I'm mad at him. But they wanted to talk about the pandemic and how it's affecting pets. They had to reschedule due to the protest. And then when they rescheduled, like in 45 minutes before the protest, I still hadn't gotten the Zoom connection to tell my client to appear. And then I got this weird message that everybody had been working with was furloughed. That has never in my 30-year career ever happened, that they had to cancel because they had such internal turnover in a moment's notice. I was shocked. So you're also speaking into a very time-constricted audience. Yesterday, our client in Charleston, who's a financial advisor, the Charleston business publication is like, we don't even have time. Can she just write something for us? So a lot of times these, you know, if it's a smaller publication, they don't have a lot of staff, they're going to ask you to write something. And then you can, you know, just ask them, do you want it in first person or third person? And if you don't know how to write, just go on some of those services where you can find freelancers, you know, or let us know you need help, right? I am 50 years old, Mark Bello.
I know that. I know that.
And I started doing PR when I was 20. I was in theater school in Chicago. And I worked for this woman named Andrea Foreman. And she had like a little, there was a binder of jobs. And I was like, clicking through. I loved theater, but I also was completely obsessed with, what was it? Tabitha and Bewitched. Remember that show, Bewitched? I'm looking around. Most of you are would remember the age of Bewitched. Okay. And I just really loved Darren. Okay, like I was fascinated by Darren's campaigns, right? And then the mother-in-law was in the corner, like doing this about the advertising. So I was like, I'm gonna get my degree in theater, but I'm gonna study advertising on the side. But what came up was a publicist who worked on Lakeshore Drive in her condo. This was 1989. And she worked out of her house. She was a former WGN journalist, producer, radio producer. And she was working from home when nobody worked from home. She had a phone in the lit dining room. She had a fax in her bedroom and a full-size copier in the hallway closet. And she was, every day, I would do my classes in the morning. I would go have lunch with her. We would have gefilte fish. I'm German, not Jewish, but I love gefilte fish, turns out. And then we would
Gefilte.
My apologies. Gefilte.
With an I. Gefilte.
I love it. So if you want to, you can just send me a box of that, okay?
I can teach you Yiddish like you wouldn't believe.
It's not that far from Bavarian speak too, believe it or not. Like, anyway, now I forgot what I was saying, Mark. But anyway, so yes, I've been doing PR that long. So what I learned, but the thing that's the same about her, she was actually developing franchise markets. So we would open up a franchise market. So in her office, we would call, like if let's say the franchisor wanted to open up a franchise in Texas, Houston. It was like a ring thing, like designer imposters or something like that. And so we'd call the paper and we would say, so-and-so wants to open up a franchise in Houston. And he would say, oh, it's interesting. Do you have any photos? Give me photos of the jewelry, and we'll run a story that he's targeting Houston for expansion. And that's all we did. Because see, what's interesting to the public in Houston at that point is job expansion possibly. They didn't care about the jewelry, except that they had nice pictures to put in their paper that people wanted to read about. Mm-hmm. But the story angle was job expansion. Get it? Mm-hmm. Okay, questions, because we're at 45 minutes into the call. We've had 2 breakouts. You've had practices. We've talked about how to pitch yourself in 45 seconds or less with a formula of credential, what's in it for me, the reader, the viewer, the listener, and your call to action. Then we also talked about, that was our formula and the pitches that always work. Now we're talking about the different press materials, right? So we talked about the differences between a press release and a pitch. It's like the difference between a flyer or announcement, cut and paste situation versus a personal invitation to play with you. The only other thing that, back to the story about designer, the jewelry, we had a campaign with Mission Canine. So they retire working dogs from the police force or from war zones. And it was also in Houston, and their local pet magazine, they did a big spread for July 4th with the dogs, a reunion. And how we publicized that is we used a pitch and then put a media alert inside of the opportunity to take photos with these dogs. That's a media alert. Photo opportunity or an event opportunity. So you then do the who, what, where, when, and how. And this is all laid out very specifically inside your workbook. So questions related to those topics. And Hannah will help me moderate the questions. And if you don't get a chance to tell me the question, interact with me, put it in the chat, because then I read it, and then that'll be Tuesday's blog. I'll do a summary of the chat box Tuesday or Wednesday. So let's see, even also Open Sesame, the subject line, different things like that. Questions?
In the chat box or in hand raised?
Well, you're speaking now. Let's go, Adrienne.
This is a little off point, but for me, it's essential. I get very much what you're doing with regard to my organization, and hopefully we'll be working together when it comes to press for my organization.
Oh, good,
But
Adrian. Thank you.
but it occurred to me that me personally, what I really want, took me a long time using your materials to find out what my real call to action was for myself.
Perfect.
And it really is that I want to be back on terrestrial radio. I have a great podcast. And I know even the stations. And the way I was on radio was because I was a guest, and I was discovered as a very good guest talking about my book. And my question is, was that the old days when you could become actually a radio personality by being discovered by scouts? I was actually discovered by a scout. Didn't know that they were looking for a talk show host. And now I want to do that again. And I even know what station I want it to be. And I just don't know whether pitching my books, my subject matter, is still a stepping stone to actually becoming an on-air host anymore, of that has sailed, that boat has sailed. And there's another way that you have to do that. And it's all about networking. It's just a side question that might not be relevant to others. So if you want to answer it separately, it's okay.
No, it's just, let's make it relevant to, it's pitching, right? So you're pitching yourself. So like Linda led with her product, she wasn't leading with what was appropriate to who was listening, right? If she's talking to an advertising person who's going to partner her with advertising, then that's an appropriate pitch to lead with the product. But if you're leading with a press person, they're only listening for the public good. So Adrian, I would, when yours is more of a celebrity campaign, right?
Yes.
As a personality.
Influencer celebrity campaign, yes.
So there's different ways to do that today because we have so many different vehicles. If you like the old school method of terrestrial radio, then all you do is you hire someone that then your show is then syndicated to another radio show, and their stations pick it up. And so you'll see local hosts, and George Norrie, I spoke to him this week. I got to speak to George Norrie. I'm such a fan. And he was talking to me about a personal matter. I just was so honored. He's coast to coast, right? He's picked up everywhere. Everybody listens to him in the middle of the night about all those alien things.
Right.
So basically back in the day, his production team just dialed and smiled different terrestrial radio shows and said, I've got a great show for you. I've got great content. You should syndicate it. So there's a talent manager for that. So you should look at it in terms of the same way that back in the day, the Duchess of York, we were doing something with SOS Children's Villages. They were our client, an international nonprofit. And then the Duchess of York, remember Fergie?
Yes.
Not Black Peas, but redhead.
Yeah.
So the Duchess of York, she's like, how do I get in a Hollywood TV station? I was like, you got to hire an agent. That's not a publicist. A publicist deals with the press. If you want a show or syndication, and today that looks like Netflix, you have to hire a talent agent. And then in your case, because it's specific to radio, is you need someone who knows how to syndicate your podcast or syndicate your radio shows.
Got it.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
What
Thank
other
you.
questions? Perfect. We got a few more minutes and then we'll call it a day. Joyce? Yep.
Mark mentioned that my subject is one people don't want to listen to. And so I have toyed with the idea of saying, welcome to the world of trauma recovery. We all have trauma, don't we? And trauma is both wonderful and tragic.
Well, let me just say, let's hitch your wagon to, the Me Too movement was pretty hot the past 2 years. Back in 2006, I pitched Mike Domish's book, May I Kiss You? That he had written after his sister had been raped in college. And he toured the college circuit teaching young adults about consent, which now when I say that, you all go, I know what she means by consent. But in 2006, people were like, what do you mean by consent? And I would pitch it to the top tier and they'd be like this. Like this was at the National Publicity Summit in New York. I'll never forget. And they're like, and I was like, what do you mean? They're like, we're not going to cover that. Rape and sexual molestation and all that stuff. We're years past what's happened in the Catholic Church, what's happened in our sports movements, what's happened with Me Too. We're years past that. So now there's a little more appetite, especially since our political scene has allowed for those tough topics to be more everyday language. And I think that the conversation, but Joyce, I just have to share from a personal level. You know, I was at a group in Asheville where the whole point was you're supposed to like share letters of like, you know, about trauma like this. And this guy, I'll never forget, my husband was with me and he goes, baby, just, you know, some people just aren't ready. And because I was like really near tears. And so this guy came up to me and he goes, your story can't be true. So if you're going to take that on, good on you. And just know that some people aren't ready. That doesn't mean you should shut up. You should just keep checking for people who will hear you, right? So what? First for Women might not publish you, but Bust might, right? Thrive Global might. Oprah might. Does that answer your question? It's a tough topic. Okay.
It is a tough topic. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Nita?
I'm a little confused. I apologize. Rob and I are behind on the 21 day pitch.
Oh my God, you have to get off the call right now.
All right, see you later. Bye.
Who cares?
Well, actually, we just sent in a contract to work with you, so you guys are going to do it instead of us, but we're very excited about that. But when you talk about call to action, our project is a call to action about climate change and land conservation, species protection. With COVID, it's a call to action to find creative ways to connect with nature.
Yeah.
But is the call to is it that type of call to action, or is it the call to action to the media to get them to?
Who's the subject?
Oh, this is a deep well. Okay, this is what every client, I keep asking, what's the point? And then I got in the Wall Street Journal and it just didn't move anything for me. Well, what was your point? So let's just take this example. This will be easier, right? Because yours is climate change. This is an asphalt plant. So what? We got 5,000 people on the petition and we've got 1,300 people on the Facebook group. So what? What matters is that we raise $30,000 for legal defense, so that we can point out, you know, our legal defense to postpone this asphalt plant coming in. So the point of the entire PR campaign is to mobilize as many people in this zip code to make phone calls to the commissioner, to write emails to the commissioner, to handwrite those lovely cards that Mark's going to get from me. And that's the point. And I actually heard, so all this coverage, wonderful. And I heard somebody call me and they said, so-and-so on the board of commissioners says, I'm not getting as many emails as you think. Failure on my part. So the next thing I did, you'll see, if you go to that page, you'll see me going, hi neighbors, we need to email people. So then what exploded yesterday was, all these people at the planning department are so mad at us. They say stop. I said, you keep it up. You know how it goes, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know what's going to move the dial for your campaign, but that's your call to action. What action do you want the public to take? For Linda, it's she needs money. She's got the patent, she got the product. Now she needs people to wear the product and buy it, right? Who else is on? So Adrienne needs listeners, right? She needs people to tune in and syndicate. Her target audience would be other radio shows, right? Joyce just wants to unite people who've had these trauma experiences. Who else? What are your call to actions? Marjorie, she wants people to walk. Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
Walk safely.
Walk safely and easily.
Yes. Oh, Marjorie, I must talk to you offline.
My email is up above. Look in the comments.
Oh,
Yes.
by the way, if you cut and paste right now everything in the chat box, and then you can just throw it in an email, download it to your computer. Catherine wants to share. What's your call to action?
I'll share. There's a safe chat. If you go into the chat box, there's 3 little dots, and then it opens a window, and there's a safe chat option. I think it works better on PC.
Come on, we got 4 minutes, Catherine. What's your call to action?
I'm actually in PR, so I just love hearing from other people. My biggest struggle is a Passion Point, the nonprofit that we work with, and the call to action for them is for people to go to their website and to donate to 501c3. And the secondary one is for them to share the word with other traumatically wounded individuals in their lives that there is this free 9-week adaptive training program they can take part of that will change their world. When I've been doing the breakout sessions, my struggle has been the media, like, it's not that they don't even care, that to the public, they have apathy for traumatically wounded, specifically veterans. Privately, when I pitch, I'm told, well, we have enough veteran stories. So it's like, and there's a glomming onto the veteran component of it versus like kind of the Oprah-esque.
Yes. Yeah. So, Catherine, I just want to acknowledge you for being here. One of my dreams when we thought about these calls was I said, you know, I'm blessed with a team of 12 to bounce ideas off. But if I was a publicist who was like just needing a sounding board for some ideas, this would be a great opportunity to do that. And that's why we did the breakout sessions.
I saw you put the invite out because I have a team of 5, and in transparency, I tend to be the strategic one. They tend to be more of the doers. So I feel like I'm listening to my own head of what is working, what's not working, and then I know you get that. So to even your format and to hear me verbally say it once again is helping.
Good. I hope that we get more publicists because then it enriches the conversation between the do-it-yourselfers and the publicists, because I also then learn from you. And as we move forward,
I think 2020, we got to play nice in the sandbox, right?
Come on. Yeah, because it's like things are happening so rapidly too. It's interesting to just workshop this stuff and just bounce ideas off of each other. So thank you for being here. And so, Nita, I'm going to wrap up, but do you have a burning contribution before I wrap up?
Well, I just wanted to follow up on what you said. Two things. One is a lot of this type of stuff that's going on for you is now happening on the federal level. During COVID, the federal government is repealing a lot of environmental restrictions around air, water, public land, that type of thing. So
That's
that
for
could tie
damn sure.
to a national story. And then the other thing was just to let you know that our book has 25 different things you can do to make a difference. So we have a call to action built into the book itself.
But our call to action is we want people to buy the book so we can continue spending money on food and donating to organizations.
No, well, you do need to put food on the table. That's important, right? There's no shame in that. I think it's important to let people know, that it's important to take care of ourselves as we do these PR campaigns.
Michelle, you asked why people would care about your little neighborhood problem, and the answer is because your neighborhood might be next.
Exactly.
It's everybody's. Your neighborhood is everybody's neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing about Black Lives Matter and a kid getting shot by a cop. It's your kid might be next. In fact, the community is saying, that's my kid, that's my nephew, that's my son, that's my husband.
Seeing people are resonating.
If you personalize it, that makes a big difference.
So we've talked a lot about it. I want you to bring next week. The next Friday will be the last in our series. It's 2:00 at the top of the hour, and I actually have another meeting that I have to jump to. It has been a beautiful time together. I've really enjoyed this one. While I loved last Friday, this was much more fun. So we're going to do more of the breakout sessions in the next one. So come with your problems, come with your challenges, and then we'll work it out. Okay? Until next week, have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you.